What is up YouTube, it's Kingfisher745, and in this video I'm going to give you some last minute tips, but really tips that can apply anytime, for reaching the Adamantium League in Marvel Avengers Alliance. If you're able to remember these things and put them to use, plus you have to be able to field a solid team with pretty decent bonuses, but if you can accomplish that, you should be able to make it to the Adamantium League. At least one day you will. This is the current team and setup I'm using, and once again we got smashed on defense last night. We were well over 2,000 rating. So yeah, don't worry, we're going to talk about defense very soon. One of the biggest keys, and actually I would argue that it is the biggest key, is on your offensive team, you have to win consistently. So you'll want to bring an anti-meta team. Don't worry about getting too fancy or facing some oddball team that you may face 1 in 50 opponents. Think about who you face the most in your bracket. Who gives you the most trouble? What agents, gadgets, weapons, and so on are causing your teams to lose or to have a more difficult time winning? Then you counter that. For me, at least for this season, that means using Spitfire. There's plenty of agents out there who love using Angrier. If they're not using him, they may have Pestilence Beast, Victor Mancha, even Emma Frost. And Spitfire has a great chance of taking them down in the very first 2 actions. So if you can stop the Breaker of Souls before he even gets a chance, there's really no beating that. Now if the enemy team does stop debuffs, then yes, she may not take them out right away. But the reason she's one of the best at this is because even in some of those situations, she may proc "We will win," and then your agent and your other teammate will attack. This quite often will push your damage over the top. So there we have our quick assault. I call it the Alpha Strike, and it's great for eliminating one of the worst possible threats that the other team may bring. Oh, Rocket Raccoon too, by the way. She is fantastic at taking him out. If you do take him down fast, many of those follow-up teams collapse. So that's another reason we're using her. We also have Kurth here, and she's immune to a lot of effects, including Psychic. This means that mind control from the Dark Energy Blade won't even stop her Fear Me. And with the new AISO, you can place Endemic on it, mimicking Pestilence Beast, or the Scroll of Rudamaroth. Alternatively, if you don't have the Ionic Devourer, you can place a lethal AISO on it, and that will cause an AoE Despair. That's huge in today's meta. It shuts down the healing from the Elite AISO. It stops Colossus's P5 ability, Guardian Force, at least the healing of it. It stops Angrer's healing, and it even prevents resurrection effects. It's probably more important than ever to have a Despair. Then for our agent, he's pretty much there for support. We have him equipped with various healing methods, dots, and eventually if he's really needed, he can possibly finish the enemy team with the Improbability Field and Atom Smasher. If you don't have the cube, yes you are at a disadvantage, but you can still get items like the Ionic Devourer, the Singularity Matrix, and then some dot type weapons that you can find in the story missions, so you can at least somewhat mimic a support agent. Or you could have him go all out attack, you could definitely do that. For me, I feel more comfortable with the anti-meta support style agent. And by the way, the next battle was against the same exact team but with worse stats, so we won easily. And I figured you'd probably want to see a battle with someone like this instead. So now we're facing a full-on defensive setup, and they're immune to debuffs to begin. Now you may be wondering, how with a setup like I have do I take on a team like this? It's simple, it comes down to dots. And while I used this method before, it's even easier and more powerful with the Ailing AISO. Once again, that causes Endemic, which suppresses most effects that prevent or remove debuffs. And we have that on Kurth's level 6. So right away we're going to use her Fear Me, and now we can freely dot up the enemy team. They have the Scroll of Rudamaroth, but I actually prefer it in an AISO, so I was very happy that it came out. Also, mind control cannot stop her, so that's a huge benefit. You know you're going to put that debuff on the enemy team. And by the way, kind of off topic, but the Dark Energy Blade AI agents get so many turns, it's absolutely ridiculous. So as a minigame, count how many extra turns this enemy agent gets, and then post that in the comment section below. But rather than concentrate on this fight exactly, I'm going to get back to my tips for making adamantium, and these should apply for future seasons as well. The meta may change, but you just have to figure out what's hurting you, what's popular, and then how can you best counter that. After you have your attacking down, you're probably wondering, well, what about the defense? Let me just tell you, your defense isn't nearly as important as you may think it is. I get crushed on defense. Most people I know get crushed on defense. This season, at this current point, I have 50 defensive wins and 130 defensive losses. Not very good. A lot of times I do better than that. This is definitely one of the worst seasons, and I think in part it's because of a borderline exploit or two, and definitely some hackers. But that's always going to be there, and I've only really had my defense carry me maybe 1 or 2 seasons ever. It's not reliable. The AI is awful. So what do I recommend as far as defense? Well, if you can't figure out a defensive team that you want to use, copy everyone else. That's what most agents do. I'm not really going to say whether I think that's good or bad. It's just reality. If you only have a few higher level heroes, like a handful at level 14 or hopefully 15, try to make them work. You're going to lose defensive battles. And I don't care if you have all level 15s. You would pretty much need an entire gold weapon armory, or some really slick combination, and that only lasts so long in this game. It usually ends up getting nerfed. Most of us can't afford a full gold weapon armory, so you're going to lose. At best, you may win 50% of your defensive battles. But what happens when you log into -100 every day? Well, that's what's been happening to me, believe it or not. And the solution is, you make up those points with your attacks. So if you log into -120, win 140 points on offense that day. You want to go above and beyond where you logged out. So however many attacks it takes, just stick to it. If you can win consistently on offense, you can make it to the Adamantium League. No problem. You have to win most of your attacks though, and you may have to attack a lot. The worse your defense is, the more you'll probably have to attack. But if you can put in the time and the effort, you can certainly win the character. You see, it's not like the old days when defense actually mattered, especially because on the final day, you couldn't possibly keep up with your defensive battles. With the way things are now, if you get up to like 1900 rating before that final day, you pretty much don't even have to play. At least in my experience. So one of my final pieces of advice is in the last few days, get to 1900 or even 2000 rating, and it should be much easier to maintain your rank. You won't have to worry about all the errors on the final day. You probably won't even have to play at all, so no stress. And another kind of odd thing that I do want to end with is a lot of you may think, well, the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, 3000 rating even, it must be so difficult. Well, in my experience, the higher rating you get, the easier the opponents. Now, maybe not everyone faces the same people, but I have heard from others that they think the same exact way. I'm not trying to bring down anyone's accomplishments. If you fought long and hard and put in the time and effort to reach 3K rating, then power to you. But there is something about the competition. The 15 to 1600 rating bracket is so much more difficult on average. At least in my experiences, almost every match is tough. The higher you climb, well, let's put it this way. At 1800 rating, I faced an agent that also was around there, and he had 3k HP. So there's obvious cheaters and hackers up there. And when you face these lower HP agents, with lesser stats and heroes. It's an easy win, and those come much more frequently above 1800 than they do in the 15 to 1600 murder zone. I've been saying this forever, and I was happy to see that there's even a chart now basically confirming exactly what I was saying. So just push through, the higher you go the better, and just try to win consistently on your attacks. If you do that, you should be fine. Good luck to everyone at the end of this tournament. I hope you get your desired leagues. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Then until next time, take care.